Hello and welcome to our podcast through the University of Kansas Medical Center. My name is Angela Carrasco, and joining us today we have Paxton Oliver-Bingham, a second-year Doctor of Audiology student in the Intercampus Program in Communicative Disorders at the University of Kansas. Additionally, we have invited Mike Shores and Laurie Davenport, attendees from the Aural Rehab group that meets weekly at the University of Kansas Medical Center. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Paxton, you are one of the student leaders for the Aural Rehab group. Can you define Aural Rehab and give us a little background on it?
Absolutely. So the Aural Rehab is an umbrella term that talks about hearing loss intervention, but the American Speech Language and Hearing Association actually defines it as a person-centered approach to assessment and management of care for hearing loss and encourages an environment that allows people to become involved with their care and intervene regarding the impact of hearing loss. So our group approached this oral rehabilitation as an education for participants to have more involvement in their care and included auditory training and speech reading techniques.
Okay, so how did this group come to fruition and what is its purpose then?
So the group was offered this year to continue care for individuals with hearing impairment. And this was made possible by the Carpenter and Robinson Epilogue Care Fund. Due to these donations from these individuals, Mary Carpenter, who was a former professor from our department, and her husband, Donald Robinson, we were able to offer this group. The Care Fund supports individuals who would not have insurance or for clinical services such as our Aural Rehab group that is not covered by insurance.
Okay. So does that mean that there is no cost for this group?
Currently, yes, there's no cost for this group, but typically it would cost about $200, so we're tremendously thankful. Aural rehab is critical to improving communication for individuals with hearing impairment. Hearing aids, unfortunately, cannot magically fix our ability to understand speech, especially in difficult environments. They're absolutely necessary, but often don't resolve the issues that we have with hearing loss. So our group's goal was to develop the skills of our participants in using their hearing aids, manipulating their communication environment in multiple ways, and then train their auditory skills to improve their overall communication abilities.
That sounds like something that everyone should go through that has a hearing aid.
Absolutely. If you have hearing loss, you should have some form of aural rehab.
That's wonderful. And how often does this group meet?
Our group met for 1 hour once a week for 6 consecutive weeks.
Okay. And is it something where the members can retake the class?
Unfortunately, I don't think we're offering it for people to take the course multiple times because we're wanting to reach as many people as we can with hearing impairment, and the information will be the same.
Makes sense then. So Laurie, how did you hear about this group?
I was invited to attend this group through the recommendation of my audiologist, Dr. Cole Campbell, here at the University of Kansas Medical Center.
Okay. And Mike, same for you?
Same thing.
Great. So Mike, what type of content did you learn during the AR group?
Actually, it was pretty informative. I learned a lot about myself and that I don't always pay attention. So I learned that I need to be more attentive to people. I look at people differently when I talk to them now, and I find I enunciate more and am more expressive with my face, especially to people who already have a hearing loss.
Oh.
And just learned a lot about some different tricks to make my hearing aids work better.
Interesting. So when you talked about being more expressive yourself, do you find even with folks that have normal hearing, do they become more expressive with you when you do that?
I think so, but I haven't really paid attention to that.
That's the next thing you're going to work on, huh?
Paying attention.
Very good. Laurie, anything you can add to the type of content that you learned in this class?
Mike did a great job of explaining what we learned, and Paxton and her group were very good about helping us with these communication strategies. And as Mike said, we do a lot more looking at faces and picking up on cues and things like that than we did before.
Great. So Laurie, did you find the group to be helpful, and in what ways did you find it helpful?
It was so helpful, and it was also reassuring for me because some of the feelings that I was experiencing, like I would try to isolate myself because I couldn't always understand conversations maybe out in public, or I was having difficulty hearing in the workplace. Even the day-to-day frustrations with my loved ones, I was only getting a portion of what was being said. And so by coming to this group, I was kind of a kindred spirit. Other people felt the same way. And so I realized, hey, it just wasn't me having these things. Paxton did a wonderful job of explaining to us that hearing loss is a very chronic condition in today's society. And yet there is still a stigma, and there are some people who will not do anything to find a way to better hear or better communicate with others.
I definitely could name some family members of mine that have not done that.
Yes.
And then I think, like you said, they feel more isolated and a little bit depressed.
Yes.
And in our society today, we have so many more available resources than we had previously with technology advancements and things along those lines. We can just really look at a person's individuality and see what it is that they need. Hearing devices and things like that are not as cumbersome or as bulky as they used to be. I think that's a concern with some people in appearance. So again, when you go to your audiologist, they fit you with the best possible device that you need for your situation.
Right. And I know some people have to worry about the cost of the device as well, because it's like buying a cell phone. You can get the low end or you can go top grade, and there's going to be a large difference in that, and your insurance is not necessarily going to be there to help you out with it. So it's kind of like, well, okay, we'll get the best we can afford, and then how do I work with what I have?
Right.
Absolutely. Mike, did you find the group helpful?
It was helpful and it was fun.
Good.
The staff that worked with us was real good. It was fun to watch their faces as they were teaching, because they were modeling as they taught by enunciating, shaping their mouths to help you understand the words that were being spoken. What's that called? Speech
reading.
Speech reading. It was really interesting. We talked about things like, where do you sit at a restaurant? Well, I always sit with the wall to my back. My hearing aids have microphones that point backwards as well as the ones that point forward. So I learned that if I sit with my back toward the noise, my hearing aids will automatically turn off the back microphone so that I can hear the person sitting across from me better.
Huh.
I didn't know that.
So you always thought you had to sit in the corner, but now you can be the good kid and sit outside the corner.
Yeah, except then I miss everything that's going on, but I like watching the people a lot.
That's okay.
But just little tricks that just make your hearing aids work better. The isolation of hearing loss is incredible. I don't know how to explain it, but I'll go someplace, and if I can't hear something or can't quite make it out, it's kind of hard to keep saying, what? And I learned that it's okay to do that, but sometimes you have to hit people with a 2x4 in order to get them to express what they're saying in a way that I can understand it.
Right. I can relate to that because I speak a couple foreign languages, but I'm not very good at understanding when someone from another country is speaking to me in that language, and I'm very bad about being assertive and saying, I really don't understand what you're saying. Could you repeat that? So I empathize.
But you're supposed to do that.
Right.
That's being
You're
positive for yourself.
Absolutely. Did you have any surprises in the content then, Mike?
I was real surprised to figure out that I don't pay attention a lot. That was probably the biggest surprise. But I just learned a lot of little details that make day-to-day wearing hearing aids work better for me.
Great. Laurie, any surprises for you?
Well, it was, as Mike was saying, about where you sit, and Paxton and her crew were so good about sharing with us like a diagram of a restaurant. And we are moving into the age where we like polished concrete and industrial chairs and sitting, and then you add the bar music to it, and that is the worst for us. Gone are the days of the carpeted floor and the really nice padded seating and things like that, because that was, what do you call it, cushion or buffer?
Yeah, it provides like acoustic buffers,
Yes.
pretty much, for sound. Lots of curtains, anything that can help reverberation. But of course, that's difficult to express, and people get in a habit of sitting in the same place where they're comfortable or things like that. Or they think that, well, there's so much noise, I'll just focus on the person in front of me. But actually, it's better to go the opposite way and sit with the noise to your back so that your microphones, your hearing aids can do what they're meant to do for you.
Right.
But you have to understand what they're meant to do for you.
That's
And I
true.
even find those restaurants to be too loud. And I can name a couple off the top of my head that I feel like are always worse than others. So
Yes.
with me having normal hearing loss, that's an irritant to me. So I can only understand someone with hearing loss. You wouldn't even want to go there.
Yes. And then the other thing that I thought was very helpful is that when you are fitted for your hearing device, when you walk out of that office visit, you were just overwhelmed. And so you don't know exactly where the battery goes, or you don't exactly know how to do the volume control. And yes, you do have the capability of using it with your cell phone. So again, one of our classes did exactly that. They took those parts, they diagnosed them for us, they gave us information that said this is the hearing implement that you use, this is what you do with X, Y, and Z. And we've had time to digest that. So
Right.
it was so helpful to do that.
One of the things that I like about my hearing aids the most is the fact that I don't have to listen on the phone. My Bluetooth takes the sound from my phone and pipes it directly into my ears. Now, the people around me can't hear it, but I can hear and respond appropriately.
Right. Well, that's neat. And I think a lot about how baby boomers are reaching that stage now where they need these hearing devices. And I think about a lot of the baby boomers did not grow up with the technology that Paxton and I have been growing up with. So how can someone utilize that technology? That's got to be totally overwhelming. So if you're saying you already have a hard enough time with them showing you how to use your hearing aid, and then if you're trying to connect it to Bluetooth, and my father wouldn't know how to connect Bluetooth, you know?
I didn't either. But when I came in to be fitted for my hearing aids, they did, so they
Exactly.
did it for me.
Exactly.
Right.
And there are different levels of sound. There are different things that your hearing aids will do if you choose to have them do it.
Mm-hmm.
When Dr. Campbell asked me what I wanted, I told him simplicity.
Right.
I don't want to have to do anything except adjust the volume.
Right.
I can adjust the volume. That's easy.
Mm-hmm.
They set up my Bluetooth, so my phone, I can hold it down here, talk, and hear it.
Great. And I also think about how you use your tactile, you lose it as you get older, how you can't manipulate your fingers as well. So think about some of these little tiny devices that you're trying to put in your ear and you're trying to program and do things with it. That has to be hard.
It is. But there are some little tools that they give us as well that helps us get batteries in and help us with the dome and things like that. So that is so helpful.
Wow. Laurie, do you have any recommendations for people with hearing loss, things they can do or things they should ask?
I would say that if you feel like you are experiencing some hearing difficulties, get it checked out. Go to your primary care physician or such. It may be something, a very simple problem. It doesn't have to be life-altering or anything like that, but do get that checked out. And then if you are diagnosed with a hearing loss and you do have to have a hearing device, then educate yourself on the resources that are available. We have heard so many things about when you go to a movie theater, when you're at the symphony, when you're watching television. There's some, Mike mentioned his telephone. There's so many things today that will help you with your hearing and the devices that we have today that were not available. And you can still continue to function, enjoy life, and have a great time.
That's very good points to make. And Mike, do you have any to add on to that?
The hearing aids, when I was growing up, people who wore hearing aids had this big glob of gum in their ear, or they had these glasses with the real thick earpieces, and their hearing aid was inside the ear part of their glasses. And today, hearing aids are very small, and unless somebody is paying real close attention, people don't know you're wearing them.
You're absolutely right.
And they do so many things. I found out something about my hearing aids that I didn't know. They were set up so that going to the Kaufman Center, I can get a device that takes the loop at the Kaufman Center and pipes the information, the concert, directly to my ears.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yes.
And that's very helpful that people in Kansas City are thinking about the population that might have hearing loss and considering that.
Yes.
But
Wonderful.
it doesn't have to be as scary. It beats the heck out of being isolated.
You bet. Because you still want to go to those concerts. You still want to go to the movie.
Yes.
But you don't want to have your hearing aid ringing at you the whole time you're in the movie either.
Yes.
Mike, how did it feel to be in a room filled with individuals managing hearing loss? Did you learn things from each other?
Yeah, we shared back and forth between each other and talked about common problems, solutions or possible solutions. And it's always nice to know that you're not the only one. Mm-hmm. And that was what was really positive, is all of the people had some form of hearing loss. Mm-hmm. And we all shared some of the same frustrations. So it's always good to be around people who have the same issues that you do, that you can share with.
You bet. Did either of you see friendships being developed, or anybody just like, wow, these are some aha moments for me, so this was great?
We're hanging out now. Yeah, it's a good thing. So it's really cool. So Mike's going to take us out to dinner here shortly.
That was nice, Mike.
Oh, good.
Mike's paying and everything, and you know where to sit in the restaurant.
We do.
That's wonderful. Laurie, did you find the content from the facilitators as well as the attendees to be helpful?
Exactly. Mike hit the nail on the head right there. It was just wonderful. It was a safe environment. Again, when you're isolated or excluded from some things, it's nice to go. It's almost like a support meeting, if you will. It's nice to go to a safe place and to voice your frustrations and say, okay, I'm not doing well with this. And then to have people who are knowledgeable in the area just say, well, here we go, let's try this. They would give us homework that we would have to do as we would leave, and then we would come back and they would ask us, well, how did it go? And we'd had some success stories and we had some not success stories. So it was really good. It was very hands-on. It was great education, great learning, and more people need to do it.
What was an example of some homework you had?
We got to go to a restaurant again, and restaurants have a lot of background noise. Mm-hmm. So as you were sitting with your person, where did you sit? Did you have ample lighting? How far were you from the speaker? How were you able to understand the conversation and things along those lines?
Very good. Very good. Paxton, is this a type of clinical experience for audiology and speech-language pathology students, and are you supervised during this?
Yes, so this was incorporated into my clinical experience and the clinical experience of the 2 speech pathology students that were also with me. We were supervised by Dr. Cole Campbell and Dr. Debbie Daniels, and their assistance throughout this whole journey has been very greatly appreciated. Mm-hmm. It was the first time we've offered the group for several years, but it's definitely enriched my clinical experience because I approach problems that patients come to me now with a different perspective and light, and trying to relate it to what I've learned from the group, from my participants as well.
I bet there are some things that come up in group that you hear often, and you start to realize, wow, when I've got an audiology patient, they may not even know this, but I remember they talked about it a lot in group, so maybe I should mention that to them. I think that would really make you empathetic to the patient.
Absolutely, absolutely. When you hear that restaurants are really hard, or I haven't been to a movie in 8 years since my hearing loss, those things you can kind of connect to a little bit more because you have experienced that shared experience of someone telling you their story and trying to work with them to help improve that.
Right. So you mentioned speech-language pathology. Paxton, I understand that this is an interdisciplinary area since Aural Rehab connects both audiology and speech-language pathology. Can you explain how this works? And since this was your first semester offering the service, can you explain what you learned?
Absolutely. So unfortunately, oral rehabilitation therapy cannot be currently billed by audiologists. Only speech-language pathologists can bill for that therapy. And because it requires the interdisciplinary experience of both fields, I think it was very helpful because the combination of our perspectives appropriately balanced the course material and the topics that we taught. Some things I came from a specific audiology standpoint, specific about your hearing aids, how are they working for you, things like that. And the speech-language pathology students brought in different areas of the lips to look for, or what parts of communication will always be difficult, but what you can do about that. So we really kind of worked together as a team and split the material pretty much equally to make sure we were doing a really thorough job of reviewing the information.
That makes a lot of sense because when I first heard that it was being billed through speech-language pathology, I thought that's really odd. We're helping people learn how to work with their hearing aids and hearing loss. But as you explain that makes a lot of sense. And both of you, Laurie and Mike, talked about watching the lips and the modeling and the things that you learn. So that makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah, if you set it up so that it's an interdisciplinary course to work with one another, then of course you can bill for your service. But absolutely, right now it's not offered by audiologists, which is rather frustrating because I think a lot of audiologists that have the capability of offering such extended counseling services don't, because of the time it takes, that they can't bill for their service or time or efforts that they put into.
So you're going to be offering this group again, and if so, how do individuals sign up?
Yes, we will. We'll be offering it again this summer, the summer of 2019, and the coming fall. And if you're interested, you can call our clinic at 913-588-5730 for more information. I don't think we will allow participants to sign up more than once, so if you have already signed up, that's unfortunately all the information we can provide you. But if you are interested, call us and let us know.
And Mike still might buy you dinner.
Yes.
Right, yes.
Right.
Yes.
So let me ask you all a question. I think we can all identify a family member of ours or friend who has hearing loss but will not go to an audiologist, will not seek any kind of assistance, thinks that they can hear just fine, but yet they're angry, they're bitter, they isolate themselves, and we just want them to go visit an audiologist and get some help. What do you recommend to those folks out there that are being obstinate and will not go visit an audiologist?
Sometimes, especially an older person, if they don't want to do it, they're not going to do it. Mm-hmm. And pressuring them by talking about it all the time isn't going to help. I have a friend my age that has hearing aids and refuses to wear them. You have to be brave enough to step out and try something new. Mm-hmm. And when you first get your hearing aids, it's going to be really loud because you're not used to hearing the dog lapping up water in their bowl. Just little things. The dog's nails walking across the floor. You don't hear that if you have a hearing loss, typically.
Sometimes you don't hear your spouse, and that's what you don't want to hear as well.
But you can turn your hearing aids off for that. But there's enough benefit to be willing to try it. You have usually a 30-day window that if you really don't like what you're doing, you can bring them back. Mm-hmm. There's some costs that are not reimbursable, but the hearing aids themselves typically are. Mm-hmm. But if you don't try it, you're missing out on life.
Right. I am aware that there are different types of hearing loss, so someone might not think that a hearing aid or any other type of technology could help them, but Paxton, can you talk a little bit about the different types of hearing loss or how those individuals still should come in because they might be able to be assisted?
Absolutely. So you wouldn't be able to tell yourself what kind of hearing loss you have, but if you're starting to notice that you have to ask people to repeat themselves several times, or your little Johnny, your grandkid, is impossible to hear, or you think that people are always mumbling when they're around you, it may be worth it just to try, just to check it out. Why not make sure, whether you have hearing loss or no, I got it checked out and I know I'm good.
It's not going to hurt.
Exactly. Either way. And when you do come in, we'll explain if it's a permanent hearing loss or if there's something else that can be done about it. Maybe it's just wax. Mm-hmm. We can go through all of that with you, but at least by going in and getting it checked out,
Exactly. That makes sense. So I know that insurance is not always the friendliest when it comes to hearing devices and even checkups and things. Can you maybe talk a little bit about your experiences with insurance when it comes to assistive hearing?
Absolutely. So Medicare covers one hearing test per year. So that at least if you've already gotten one this year or if you haven't done one yet, you could call our clinic and get your one hearing test covered per year. Most other insurance companies do cover hearing testing as well. Mm-hmm. Hearing aids is where things get tricky. Hearing aids are not covered by insurance, unfortunately, but it's all what you want from the hearing aid. Mm-hmm. So there's different levels of technology, similar, I think, kind of to cars.
Okay.
So you can get a basic car, the stick shift, gas, nothing special, and it does what it needs to. It gets you from point A to point B. Mm-hmm. There's also cars that self-drive, like that self-driving Tesla, big, fancy, suited up with a whole bunch of technology. And there's everything in between, like hybrid SUVs.
Okay.
So if you want that lower, just get me the car, get me what you need it to do, it'll help you hear, but it won't have that extra processing that would help you in difficult environments necessarily, like noisy restaurants or things like that. You'll still have to work hard in those environments. With the self-driving Tesla kind of hearing aids, those will do a lot more for you, like Mike's microphones where the back ones will turn off automatically. They'll connect to your phone and stream your phone calls and music, and they'll be able to do different things in different environments, like connect to movie theaters or connect to the Kaufman Center. So if you come in and say, okay, you told me now that I have a hearing loss, this is what I like to do during the day, or this is what I like to do, and this is what I've been missing. How can you help me? We'll help you figure out what level of technology is best for you. We're not trying to sell you a bunch of things.
Right.
Our clinic isn't focused on that at all. So we want to just improve your communication in daily life. We want to improve your ability to interact with the world.
And I think a lot about the baby boomers that are going to watch their grandchildren in sports. So if someone goes to a basketball game, you have loud buzzers, the whistles, things of that sort, that if you had that Tesla of a hearing device in there, wow, that would make a difference in what you're hearing.
Absolutely. I had one patient who came in and her number one goal was just to hear church again, hear her service. And she got the Teslas because she liked the idea of having them automatic, and they did connect to her church. And it was so loud because she wasn't used to having to work so hard to hear that she actually almost fell out of the pew, she said. She was so excited that she could finally hear. She was so happy. So we just want you guys to get back into the world, interact with your environment again.
Absolutely. Any other recommendations, Mike and Laurie, that you can make for folks out there with hearing loss, or to convince them maybe to see an audiologist, or anything else you'd like to add?
You'll be surprised what you've been missing.
Exactly.
I didn't even think about the lapping of the dog's tongue of the water and the little nails on the floor.
But your audiologist can adjust your hearing aids initially to lower the sound level so you don't hear everything loud right off the bat. And then over a period of weeks, maybe months, you can slowly turn it up and add more sound to your hearing aids. It really is pretty cool what they can do.
That's
Absolutely.
a great idea.
Yeah, the technology nowadays can automatically program over time to increase to your prescription level, so it isn't so loud right away. It'll still be loud, and your brain will have to take some time for adjustment, but it'll give you that period of getting used to the increased sound. That's a great point.
Yes, the sounds that everybody else hears every day, their brains have changed and turned that sound off. When you get hearing aids, the dog lapping the water, you hear and you're going, why am I hearing that? Your brain hasn't been hearing it, now it's hearing it, and your brain will adjust to turn that off over a period of time.
Very interesting.
I would also say that you don't realize how much you have isolated yourself. And as Mike says, you're going to begin hearing just the simple day-to-day things. But how many times have you canceled or declined an invitation to go somewhere because you did not feel comfortable in the setting that you were going to be able to hear everything that was going on? Once you do have your hearing devices and you do acclimate yourself or reintroduce yourself into society and to different opportunities that are out there, your confidence comes back. You get a better mindset of life. You're happier. You're more engaging, and you don't let life pass you by.
And I think about how much smaller the hearing aids are now, and how you can barely even see them. I'm looking at Mike across the room who's got a hat on, and I can't even see any type of hearing device in him right now. And Laurie has long enough hair that I don't see her ears even at all. So, I mean, no one would know.
Right.
So I guess it's one of those, stop being prideful, because it's probably more uncomfortable to say what, or not go to those events than it is just to put a hearing aid in that nobody can even hardly see.
Right.
Easier said than done, I know.
And hearing aids are also kind of on the forefront, just like glasses or fashion or anything like that. We can get them in a multitude of colors and designs. So if you are a sports fan, you can cheer on your team with those
Red
colors.
and blue.
For KU,
Exactly.
absolutely.
There you go. Or you can just, hair color. You can match your hair color, just whatever, again, for more concealment. So it's a great thing.
Well, thank you all so much for coming in today and sharing the opportunities that you were afforded to you in the Aural Rehab group. We really appreciate you coming in.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you for having
I
us.
think this was so beneficial for people to listen to, and I'm hoping that you, Paxton, keep getting group members to come in and that this class is still offered through KU, because I just think it's wonderful for anyone that has any kind of a hearing device or needs assistance.
It's worth your time.
Great.
And it's fun too.
Good. To our listeners, that was Paxton Oliver-Bingham, AUD student, and Mike Shores and Laurie Davenport, Aural Rehab group attendees at the University of Kansas. Thank you for listening, and rock chalk.